I don't know why, but it's not letting me get me. Oh, here we are. It's all right.
Right, Chair, the meeting is now live streaming.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the planning meeting virtually. Remind you that it's being recorded.
You are a minute early, Pat, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Should we wait that minute then? Okay, we wait a minute.
Can I just ask?
Is Stuart here? Vicky?
Yeah.
Just arriving.
Oh.
Councillor Mason, did you want to say something?
It's not relevant now. It's okay. Thank you.
Right.
Good evening. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, Stuart, yes.
Hi there. How are you?
Welcome. All
Thank
right.
you.
We're just about to start. It's I've got 30 seconds.
Okay. I'm gonna cut out and I'll just come in when you invite me in, if that's okay.
No, it's all right. It's okay. You can stay if you want. If you want to leave, yes, it's fine.
No, I'm quite happy to. I'll be in standby and I'll just listen into what you're saying anyway, and I'll just come in when you call me in. But I'll put my microphone in mute and just wait for the call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
Okay. Right. Meeting started. Warn you that this meeting is being recorded, and welcome to the planning meeting. Virtually. First item is number 1, which is apologies for absence. Any apologies, Vicky?
Yes, we've got Councillor Jason Crooks and Councillor Lucarini.
Thank you. Is there any more apologies from anyone? No? Right, okay. Item 2, declarations of pecuniary interest and request for dispensation. Anyone? Councillor Mason?
I believe as a resident of the Boyton Hall estate, I've got a non-pecuniary interest regarding the persimmon presentation later. Is that correct?
Vicky?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, you can declare that interest. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor McManus?
Likewise, I'm a resident and a councillor for the North Ward, so I'd like to declare a non-pecuniary interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any more? No? Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting. May I sign these as a true record? Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Liz Smith. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Bruce Davison. All those in favour, please show. Okay, thank you. Matters arising from those minutes. Page 147. Page 148. Page 149. These are the plans that we looked at. All neutral. Page 150. This is an object and neutral. Page 151, which is an explanation of the objection. And page 152, which is a continuation. Page 153. Which is a report from Mr. and Mrs. Strachan. Page 154, which is continuation. Thank you. Item 5, commercial permitted development rights. To note, previously circulated DLP Planning Limited email on permitted development rights with the view of making further representation in line with our previous comments. I think it's that one, isn't it? Has everyone seen that?
Pat, Councillor Smith
Vicky?
is waving.
Sorry.
Councillor Smith is waving at you.
Councillor Dave Smith, sorry. I'm trying to think.
What, this document, was this the attachment to the end of Vicky's email? Because I only got the first page of it, and it mentioned something later on in the document which it seemed to cut off mid-sentence. Is that what we're talking about?
I think so, yeah. That's why I was hard to find it, because I noticed it was on the email. Vicky, can you explain that? Because it was attached to the email and not as a separate attachment.
No, it wasn't. It was sent in the body of the email, and I copied and pasted it to you all.
So it's just that one page, is it?
Yeah.
No, there is a second page in the PDF. I don't know what you received through Colin's email, but when I went to their web, I did a search and found it on their website, and it's a 2-page PDF.
Right.
And I had the link, but I don't have the link on the computer in front of me, or a computer I can send it through by email now. I'll send it through after the meeting for sure. I'm not even sure.
Oh, right, okay. I can forward Colin's email again.
But if that was in the body, there was only one page, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, that might have got cut off. That might have been me. Shall I forward it again to you all? I'll forward it now, sorry.
I have got it as a PDF if anyone's interested.
Have you?
Yeah. Do you want me to share?
Yes, please. Councillor Burns, yeah.
Yeah, bear with. If I can. Share. Here we go.
I didn't get it as a PDF. It was just in the body of the email.
Oops, hang on a sec. Hang on. Too far.
I just add, it's only that one item, the new consultation Class E change, and you can see all of that in Vicky's email.
Yeah, this is the second page.
New consultation 3. Seeking use another new permitted development right, allowing change routing Class E uses to residential.
This allows buildings to be 7 metres higher than the original building to accommodate up to 2 additional stories. Floor to ceiling height is not to exceed 3 metres.
Yeah, more than that. Let me just bring it down. Do that.
What's that?
I didn't know there was a limit on height, I must admit.
I think that was in the original white paper, but the particular bit that the government's consulting on is permitted development rights. Because they brought all of the different class of shops and offices, etc., all together under Class E, to allow change of use from all Class E uses to residential. And that it wasn't previously possible to convert just any commercial premises in shops or whatever might be in the high street into residential. They had to be offices. So this is extending to all of the class 1, C1, C2, etc. A1 and 2.
I think you're right. The gist of it was on the first page. Except in the second page is the height bit, which you say is rigid on there, which I didn't know. Right. Is there any, hold on, because you've gone small.
Hang on, let me stop sharing.
Oops, what's happened here?
You've got Councillor Dave Smith wants to talk, Pat.
Yeah, I can't. I've got something come up my. I don't know what's happened here. My screen's gone blank. Oh no. Oh yeah, it's come back. Right, sorry, Councillor Dave Smith. I do apologise for that.
Yeah, I've written this. I'm sure I've written this somewhere that's saying that they can change shops to housing, even in what do we call it? Like the Queen Street. I've got no words. Like protected areas. They're saying that nothing is sort of like out of bounds when if you want to change shops into houses. So places like we're trying to protect protection zones won't be protected anymore. That's what I'm reading in it.
Yeah, it seems like it to me. Which won't go down very well with some councillors that I know. Councillor Burns, sorry.
The only other thing was, of course, it refers to the sill, which we don't currently have in West Suffolk. So what they haven't sort of said what happens if you don't have a sill. Are they saying that if you do have a building that's suddenly converted to residential, and you haven't got a sill, that you're actually going to get nothing out of it in terms of S106 or anything like that? I mean, the other thing, of course, is developers will claim about viability rights anyway, and try and wiggle out of things. I think this is a terrible thing to be bringing in when they're supposed to be revamping the whole planning system. Why are they mucking about with this little thing? Is this to try and, justify things like what they've done down in Harlow with offices to residential and say, oh, we can, instead of doing offices, we can convert everything? And David's quite right about the Queen Street. You could effectively, they could convert all those takeaways to residential tomorrow if they want, if this was in place, and we wouldn't have any choice or a chance to even discuss it. Thank you.
Chair, if I can advise that the government has had quite a lot of objections to their proposals in planning for the future. So bringing some of these bits that were in almost kind of salami slicing, the bits that they can bring in under secondary legislation, would effectively water down the if you like, the complaints about the white paper, because a lot of it would become what was already the case.
Talk, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I was going to say thanks, Chair. Yeah, this could lead to wholesale fragmentation of our high streets. You can end up with, potentially 2, 3, 4, shops or buildings converted to residential, then a shop, then 2 or 3 more I can understand the idea behind it. High streets are going to change, but there's got to be some overall planning policy for each town centre. I think. Otherwise, you're just going to, especially Haverhill High Street, which is a long high street. You're going to end up with a lot of fragmented, or potentially a lot of fragmentation. Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. Councillor Stitchcombe.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't bother this afternoon, but I have just now Googled Class E consultation, and the very first hit is the government consultation. I'm wishing that I had spent the time to actually read it, because presumably that's a longer document that will answer some of the questions, or might answer some of the questions that people are now raising. Thank you.
Thank you. Colin, I noticed that it's not on the agenda you're planning for the future, and I say I congratulate you on what's been written. I think it's very good. I say I don't know if we want to discuss that on the Vicky. Have we got? Can we have it sort of under another item at the end, or can we discuss it now, or what? As part of this?
You've done that. You've already discussed it, and I've submitted something on the back of what was discussed. This is just an additional thing they've brought in, and it's just whether or not the council wishes to write and make comments in this consultation round. We don't have to, of course, but backing up what Councillor Burns and Councillor Brown have just said, it may be that councillors do want to register their concern.
Because there's one little thing on that, Colin, that that I think should be added, because on there, I was reading it, and on there it's saying about the houses with EV chargers in. Now you can charge electric cars through your ordinary plug, 13 amp plug, but that that takes hours and hours, and as the batteries get bigger, it takes days. So could we add that they must be a minimum of 7 kilometres in that?
What?
To the electric chargers on your statement you put?
That's already been submitted and acknowledged.
Oh, is it? Oh, all right. Don't matter, because we've got a separate one going in any case. Councillor Stitchcombe?
We have got, I think, from that website I just mentioned, until the 28th of January, so we don't have to rush to respond, but we do need to plan when we would just, report back to one another or have further discussions.
Okay. Councillor Burns?
I was going to suggest to the committee, I'm not on the committee, but what about the two excellent documents which Colin has written, which I thought were brilliant? Let's get those sent out to all the local councils, the MPs and everybody else in the local area to let them know what we're doing, because although it's published in our minutes and everything, how many people read minutes? And I think we ought to be publicising it far and wide. I don't know what you think, guys.
Yeah, Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I'd like to propose that we do. That's a terrific idea, to be fair, John. Like you say, it's in our minutes, but if we've got time to actually send that to local planning authorities around us, I think that'd be a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I entirely agree with that. Right, can I have a? Oh, you're proposing. Sorry, Councillor Brown's proposed. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor, do you want to speak, Councillor Stitchcombe? Yeah. No. Want to second it?
Please.
Councillor Stitchcombe, second it. Those in favour, please show. Yeah, okay. Right, thank you. The next one on the agenda is item...
Pat, sorry, I'm a bit confused. So what was the answer to the original item number 5? Are you...
Well, I thought that was just for noting, sorry. Councillor Smith, Dave Smith?
I propose that we note it and sort of reconvene, or give us a chance to look at the document and report back at the next planning meeting.
Is that okay, Vicky? Yeah?
It's your decision.
All right. Okay. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I'd like to second that. If we've got time, if we've got another meeting before the deadline, and we've got time to have a discussion on that, I think it'd be a good idea to do so.
Yes, the next meeting is the 11th of January.
Okay, that's good. Okay, we've got a proposer of Councillor Dave Smith and the seconder, which is Councillor Brown. All those in favour, please show. Yeah, okay, carried. Right, item 6, for members of the public. Is there any members of the public? Vicky?
No, only Mr. McAdam, obviously.
Right, okay. We know what he wants to speak on. Okay, thank you. Item 7, to consider planning application.
Sorry, Pat, that was when Stuart was going to be speaking in this item.
Oh, in this item. Oh,
Yeah.
right. Okay. Okay, Stuart, you listening, yeah?
I'm listening. Can you hear me?
Oh, thank you. Can you? Okay, thank you. Can you do your presentation now, please?
Yeah, certainly.
Welcome to the planning meeting.
Thank you, and thanks again for giving me your time again tonight. It's all been a bit of a rush, as I explained in my email to Vicky. We're under a bit of pressure to get an application submitted, and it's gone in a bit earlier than I'd hoped it would go in. So caught in the hop a little bit. So just trying to relay some of the key points from the submission, which is quite imminent now, and just let you know where we've got to with discussions following the withdrawal of the southern parcel from the application for phase 2, which came in earlier in the year. As your councillors will know, phase 2A has been approved now, so we'll be starting on site on that before too long. After the withdrawal of the southern parcel, Penny Mills, who you'll know at the West Suffolk Council, and I got together with her urban designer and also highways. We've had a series of workshops now where we've had in-depth conversations about shaping the emerging application. And we've had 3 workshops. And another thing I would highlight is that we have outsourced this application to a firm of external architects just to kind of wipe the slate clean on what we submitted previously and start again with a fresh pair of eyes looking at it. I think it's been quite positive so far. Now, what I'm going to try and do now, if you'll bear with me, is share my screen with you and take you through a series of slides. So I apologise if it all goes horribly wrong, and you'll just have to bear with me if it does go wrong. The first one I thought I'd share with you. Can you all see that one?
Not yet.
It should pop up, hopefully quite soon. Let me try again.
Colin, has Stuart got sharing rights?
Yeah.
Okay.
Has that one popped up now?
No.
Oh. I'm sending it all the way from Essex, so it's maybe taking a bit longer than I'd hoped. I'm in tier 2 as well. I'm not in tier 4, so.
I can't see a technical reason why it shouldn't work.
No, I'm pressing share screen, but it's just not letting me do that, unfortunately, unless it's popped up now.
No, it's not.
Let me see.
What about if Vicky can put them up?
Were they the documents you sent me earlier?
There were, Vicky. Do you have them to hand?
Yeah, I do, yes. Just bear with me.
The first one was the location plan. It was just to set the tone.
Just let me find them and I'll sorry, I'll just find them and so it was the location plan.
That's right, number 1.
I'll see if I can do this now then.
Can't, Vicky, I can.
Really sorry about this. I don't know what's happened.
There you go. That should be coming up now.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Ah, right. Okay, thank you. So it's just to set the scene here. You can see from this drawing here where the site sits in location to the wider development. So phase 1 is at the extreme right-hand side from that roundabout. And then you can see where the sports pitches are located, and to the west of that, phase 2A, which was just approved recently by your planning committee at West Suffolk. So phase 2B is just located to the south of that site. Vicky, could I ask you maybe to bring up the slide which shows withdrawn layout? number 2.
Muted, Vicky.
Muted, Vicky.
Does that come up, or do I have to tell it to share every time?
I think you have to either open them all up in one go and then click on the one in the tab at the top.
You have to change the screen you're sharing. Sometimes easiest to stop sharing one and start sharing the next.
Yeah, that is popped up now. Actually, I can see it. Can everyone else see it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the slide showing what was submitted initially in April this year, showing the phase 2A development at the north and the phase 2B development to the south. So the part in the south is a bit we're interested just now. We've done quite a lot of changes to this layout now. And maybe if you just could scroll down just a little bit, Vicky, just to show more of, yeah, perfect. So I know there was a lot of objections to the 4-storey element, which is located to the south west corner of the site there. You can see the 2 blocks of 4-storey apartments in that location. So we've listened to what has been said about that, and we've decided to move them right up to the top of the site, facing the road which comes through from phase 1. We've reduced the amount of 4-storey as well, but I would say, and I'll come back to it in a short while, we do have still some 4-storey elements in this layout. But just looking at some of the other areas within the initial phases, the Mews courts, which come off the central access road coming down from the north, didn't quite work. So we've revamped them, and you'll see what I mean in a second when we bring up the next plan. And it was all a bit loose. There was an awful lot of frontage parking within the site as well, particularly off these Mews courts running off the main route. And that wasn't quite working either. And I think some of the other concerns of the planners at West Suffolk were that there was no continuous frontage. So it all looks a little bit loose, particularly in the Mews court, which wasn't really what was sought in the design code. So I had a good look at this, and if you could maybe just bring up now, Penny, the initial concept plan, which is plan number 3. And when it pops up, you'll see that, back to the drawing board, as I said, fresh pair of eyes on it, and Graphic came up with the layout plan, which will hopefully pop up in a second. I'll wait until it appears.
You're muted, Vicky.
Can you hear me, Vicky?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry. I'm not very good at this share screen business.
Well, that makes 2 of us, I'm afraid.
Can't get it.
Yeah, it's number 3, initial concept.
Yeah, I've got it on my screen. I can't share it with you.
Right, okay.
You need to be in Zoom and then click share and then select it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Go down a bit, Vicky.
I'm trying. Just bear with me.
Perfect. So what I'm hoping to illustrate on this particular slide is what the approach was when we discussed this with Graphic and Penny. We came up with this initial concept plan. Now you can see that the structure of this is all based around the avenue entrance from the north, leading down through the site. So Gateway Apartments framing the access point in the north there, and they're numbered number 1. You can just see that at the on the blocks, and also there's a character key down the side there. So it's creating this gateway entrance leading down to an urban square, which would create that central focal point which we had shown originally, but I think this takes it to the next level. And then creating the two Muse developments, number 3 in your plan there, to create a formal character area within the overall development, which showed continuous built frontage. And you can see the idea there where we've linked the units together just to provide a little bit of continuity of frontage there. And what we've also introduced here, highlighted by the number 4 and quite a few locations there, you can see that we've introduced rear parking courts. Now, the idea of rear parking courts was to get away from all the frontage parking, which was taking place in these Muse courts, and try and give the feel of an area that wasn't car dominated, where people would feel happy to go out onto the street, and it becomes a shared surface with a different type of material on the road surfaces there to create a much safer area. And you can see the linked attachments there just above the number 3 off the Muse courts, which would lead you into these parking courts. And we have that neighbourhood square as well, number 5, right in the southern parcel there, which creates a focal point down that strong access leading in from the north of the site going in a southerly direction. We could create that focal point with some planting in the middle of the courtyard parking area and just create a strong vista at the foot of the site. And then round the boundary, around the peripheries of the site, we've got a green edge, which is a more sinuous built form where more of the detached properties would be located. Okay, so then turning to the next plan, which is the current layout, which is what we're planning to submit, or just about to submit. Now that would be number 4, Vicky, if you would be able to bring that one up.
I will try.
And the development is still for 127 units. And it would be a mixture of 2 to 5 bedroom houses and flats. And this is, maybe if you could just pull it down. Yeah, perfect. So the site is still accessed from the same northern point there off the main road going through. And you can see how we've created that gateway. This is worked up the last plan I've just shown you and talked through to you. So we have the 4-storey element at the top, and I'll show you in a second the story height plan where you can see where the 4-storey element is. But leading down into the square there we've worked up now, and these strong frontage developments in there, and the courtyard has been reworked at the bottom just to make sure that the houses fit in there, and you create a nice vista coming down from that main access road. In the rear parking courts, you can see a series of detached units. They're brown or grey in colour, and if you can see them, the idea of what we're creating there is a fog development. So fog, for the uninitiated, stands for fog flat over ground floor. So the parking goes at the bottom of the unit and the accommodation is at the upper level. So a 1.5-storey element there. The idea being that these will create some interest there, and they don't have formal gardens, the fog area. So the idea is to create an area outside the fog where these people can spill over into that parking court and create a bit of interest and a bit of life in that development, or that part of the development as well. So we have got revised Muse developments. So you can see there we've introduced some planting along there to break it up a bit. There's different street materials in that particular area, and no cars, which I think is a great thing. We've got the parking courts at the rear, which keeps them away from these Muse courts, which I think really helps. And at the bottom, we've got that courtyard area. Again, at the bottom of the site, right in the extreme south, are more fogs. And they are next to what is the allotment site in the southern parcel, which has been dealt with under a separate infrastructure application. So just to explain a little bit about the design concept here, those familiar with the design code will know that the design approach here is for a strong contemporary style to allow for crisp, clean lines, using brick and render, weatherboard, and just to create a modern twist in the development, but using traditional materials, which I think could work really well. And we'll come on to some images that I've included as well later on, showing the contemporary style and the windows and doors that could complement the traditional materials. We've got strong open spaces here in the central area and around the perimeters of the site as well. Connection of footpaths and cycleways, the cycleway down the eastern boundary there to provide connectivity from what will be the pitches eventually down onto Unsuckling Way. And you'll notice that, you know, not only do these fogs in the car parking areas provide, you know, break up the car parking areas, but they provide surveillance of the car areas as well. And I think that's a particularly important thing. So when people come into these car parking courts in the dark night or otherwise, they feel that there's something there overlooking them. It's not just a sea of walls to the rear or fences. They can feel a degree of comfort going in and parking a car within these areas. Vicky, if we could maybe just bring up the massing plan now, which is slide number 5. You can see from this plan straight away where the 4-storey element is. It's the green blocks at the north there. Now the design code states that 3.5-storey development will be acceptable along that frontage next to the road. So we've kept it to 2-storey and 3-storey, and the blue colour there is 3-storey. But that strong gateway entrance, we feel, needs to be a bit higher in scale to lead you round the corner and into the avenue that's been created down the centre of the site. So I'll show you some images of that shortly as well and what it might look like. But the 4-storey, and I've also got some sections that I'll show you as well. We're proposing that in a flat roof. So the actual impression of that will not be as high as you would get with a 3.5-storey with a pitched roof on it. But we'll turn to that in a minute, and I'll explain the rationale behind that. But we've got the central village square with built frontage continuous down to that square there, and a mixture of 2 to 2.5-storey dwellings largely through this site as well. The yellow blocks that you can see there are the single-storey aspects. So we've got some bungalows in the development as well in the southern parcel. But the mews areas require higher density and continuous built frontage, and that leads you through to the green edge and the open space at either end of the site, so in the eastern and western edges.
While you're there, the bungalows, how many bungalows are there? They look semi-detached, or?
I think there's 4. Now, the one thing I forgot to bring home with me today was the mix, and I should have brought that, but I'll be able to clarify that to you.
So they look like they're 2 semi-detached then. Yeah.
I think it's the ones at the bottom here.
Yeah.
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 So,
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think they're there, and also I think they're located at the top, in the northeast corner. But I will check.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just making a note of the bungalows so that I can explain where exactly they are. Where is my?
Because there's so much needed in Haverhill.
I've got a plan here. I can't read the plan on the screen because it's a bit small. But if you can zoom, is it possible to zoom in the key, Vicky? Because you'll be able to see the 1-storey, the single-storey ones from the key in the bottom there. just there. So the single stories are that pale yellow colour. So if you want to zoom out a bit now, yeah, you can see the single stories at the top in the northeast corner. There's 2 units there. No, the other corner, sorry, northeast. Yep, there.
Yeah.
And also down at the bottom, next to the allotments on either end. Yeah. So that's where the single story units are. Shall we have a look at some street scenes now, Vicky? Would you be able to bring that up? And the street scenes will give you an impression of what the development will look like. So that one at the top there, street scene A, is looking towards the south from the main road, which comes through from phase 1. So the two, you can see the road in the middle, and you can see that flanked by the apartment blocks on either side of that. So that's 4-storey there in height, but it's a flat roof. Reflects what was in the design code, albeit the design code images for the contemporary apartments show a 3-storey, not a 4-storey. So it is higher than the limits in the design code, but it is actually lower that in terms of its overall height than a 3.5-storey would be. And we've got some sections, and I'll get Vicky to bring them up in a minute. But you can see, get a flavour for some of the images of the contemporary houses in the street scenes below that, street scenes B, C and D. And you can't probably see it at that scale, but we've incorporated some projecting brick details, the different materials you can see there, Juliet balconies. And I think it all helps to put a modern twist on it. The white dwellings you can see there have got contemporary dormers, flat roof dormers there. And you can see the banding between the windows and the ground floor and the first floor, pulling it together just to put a different twist on it. And also on the apartment blocks, you can see we've put external balconies on that, which I think can work really well as well. Vicky, could I ask you to bring up the section drawing?
Hold on. Can you, sorry.
Yeah.
Street scene B.
Yeah.
Can you describe the, on, I think it's the one, the furthest left-hand side.
Yeah. On street scene B.
And there's sort of like a, down a bit, Vicky, that's it. Are they wooden? That one on the left-hand side, is that wooden?
That's got weatherboarding on it.
Weatherboarding?
Yeah.
Is that wooden weatherboarding or UPVC?
It would be the sort of hardy plank type thing, so the cement boarding rather than wood, because it tends to last a bit longer and it is not quite so, well, it's much more maintenance free. So yes, we would propose cement boarding on there and then a contrasting brick to go with that as well. But the materials would all be up for discussion with the planners when it's submitted as well. But what we're proposing is largely red and buff brick, just to reflect the local characteristics, but also introducing that weatherboarding just to break it up a bit, and also render as well, which you can just see that unit below in the street scene below, which is a sharp white colour with the punctuation of the windows on it as well, which, you know, sets it out as something completely different to what you've seen certainly in phase 1B, 1, I should say, not 1B. And you can see on the 1, 2, 3, 4th element in there on the slide below, yep, that one there. You can see these lines going across between the windows. That's the projecting brick detailing, which can work extremely well. And I think I've got some images of that I'll bring up shortly as well to show you. Any other comments on these elevations while we've got them up? Anyone? No? Okay. Vicky, if you could bring up the section details now, because I'd like to illustrate, just for your benefit, the difference in height between the 3.5 storey pitched roof and the 4-storey flat roof. And I would say here that this has not been agreed with the planners as yet. We have had 3 workshops, but they haven't said whether our proposed 4-storey flat roof would be acceptable or not. We're proposing it and trying to justify it. I don't want you to think that this has all been agreed by any manner of means with the council at this stage. That goes for all the plans that you can see before you. The 4-storey flat roof on the west, the left-hand side of that page is 11.67 metres in height to the highest point. Now the 3.5-storey pitch roof, which is permitted in the design code, is 12.9 metres in height. So nearly 13 and just over 11.5. So actually sits, you can see that point of the top of the pitch roof sits quite a bit higher than the 4-storey flat roof. And then if you went to a 4-storey pitch roof, which is ideally what we'd have liked to put in here, that's even higher at 13.5 metres. So, I mean, I'd like to think we could get some support for that 4-storey flat roof just to increase the number of units on the site. But that's something that will, you know, I'd welcome your views on this. And also the planners when we discuss that with them following submission. Okay. And then just to get a flavour of the materials that we've spoken about earlier, Vicky, if you could bring up the materials plan. Thank you. So yeah, predominantly red and buff brick. We're looking at a light grey plain tile and an artificial slate as well. We've used slate in phase 1 and I think it worked quite well. It's not a natural slate, but it's a Marley Ethernet Rivendell that we used there, and I think it looks quite good on the initial stages. And I think the planners were certainly pleased with that. Brown plain tile as well. And then we show brick banding to ground floor and render and weatherboarding, which is highlighted in the key down there. And you can probably just about make out, hopefully, where these take place. And it's scattered throughout the development just to give some visual interest and just break it up a little bit with a different treatment of materials. And the last illustration, Vicky, if you wouldn't mind, is the illustrative details, just to give a flavour of what you could expect to see in this development. I think there's 3 sheets on the PDF, so you might have to scroll down here. Thanks, Vicky. So you can see how from the top left illustration there, how different the houses will look compared to what you have in phase 1, which was a traditional approach. And some of the projection brick band details we can continue through in this site as well. So it's taking a reference from phase 1. Contemporary roof canopy there at the top right hand corner, and the contemporary buff brickwork, which we've shown illustrated in that panel 6 there. You can see how that works in the image below that with the modern twist on the windows and the size of the windows there. Grey UPVC as opposed to white can often work very well. And that is similar to the brick there to what we'd be using as well. And the different window styles you can see in block 4 of that image as well, something else we can consider. Could you scroll down, Vicky, to the next one just below that? It's on the same PDF, so you should be, yeah, here we go. So again, you can see an image there with the weatherboarding and the picture there on the right, and also the sketch of the house on the left there as well. And that's in number 3 there is the natural slate image that we used the Rivendell in the first one, so that's a similar image to what we've used already. And then finally, there should be another image in there as well, Vicky. Yeah, again, another sketch of one of the house types and how that can work using some deep reveals there. And that's image number 4, which will allow for a shadow line and you know, against the crisp brick or render finish. A deep reveal can really work quite well in these situations, and you get that shadow line, which creates, again, a bit of visual interest. So that, everyone, is just a flavour of what's going to come in before you. It's not finalised yet, but hopefully that's given you an idea for what's coming forward. And hopefully there's something positive in there for you. I think we've done an awful lot of work in this with the council and with Graphic on board here. And I hope that, you know, that shows how seriously we're taking your comments and also the planners at West Suffolk, and making sure we get something that's befitting to the town. And I'd welcome any questions you have just now. And what I would say is that once the application is submitted, I'd like to have another formal presentation to run you through the images with Graphic on board. They couldn't make it tonight because they've shut early for Christmas, unfortunately, or fortunately for them. But I'd like to do another presentation with you when you've had a chance to digest what comes in to you, and then we can answer further questions then. But very happy to answer any questions or points you want of clarification just now. So
thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Stuart, because a few of the councillors were a bit worried about, you know, this being sort of very late, and obviously you explained why, and what you just said about coming back would be absolutely fantastic as well. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation, and thank you for coming to us as well. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks for that presentation, and coming back again. It is appreciated. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, that plot there, I think it's 2B, you call it, is what's the existing topography there? Is it a flat plateau or is it sloping?
It slopes down, and if you see the image in the bottom corner, as part of phase 2A, there's an attenuation basin in the bottom southwest corner. So it's at the lowest point of the site. So it sort of falls away from the northeast corner down to the southwest corner.
Okay, so that unfortunately is going to accentuate the height of those 4-storey buildings, because obviously that's
they're at the top part. Yes.
Yeah, they're at the top part.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it top part? Sorry, Councillor Brown. Is that top part the one with the flat roof?
It is, yes. There's no 4-storey in the bottom half of the site. The only tallest part is on that northern boundary where you've got the 4-storey element turning the corner and a 3-storey element next to that. Yeah. The rest of the site is 2, 2.5 and single storey.
Yeah.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, well, as I was going to say, is that that'd be really handy. You mentioned, you know, the graphics. If you could have some graphics of what that would look like from, say, the A143 and, you know, outside the plot, just to see, you know, how that looks in context of the other, you know, plots and existing buildings, etc. Just so we can get an idea of that. It'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I think it would help everyone's understanding. So we could do some sections the other way. You've got that street scene looking at the northern elevations. We could do some through the site and show you how that sits in terms of the context of Anne Suckling Way, and that might help. Yeah, I've made a note of that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. Anyone else want to speak? Councillor Dave Smith, I see first. Saw first, I should say.
Yeah, just looking at the sections, obviously the 4 stories is always going to be a bit of a sticking point. Flat roof on a 4-story building does make it look a little bit like the building up the road at High Point. Is there any way it can be? It's probably just cosmetic, like a 3.5, but make the pitch on the roof a shallower angle. Would that, to bring it down from what you had, like the 12 meters?
Yeah,
I mean, it's still 3.5 is still going to be rather high, but I just wondered if there was any way.
Yeah, the problem with half stories is the accommodation is not very good. So you're a room in an attic, if you were.
Yeah.
Whether we could do something with that, I don't know. I'd have to look at that, but certainly hear what you're saying. Personally, I think it needs some work on the top of it. I think it needs someone to anchor it to the ground, but also punctuate it at the top, maybe an overhang of some sort, just to accentuate the top of it. Because what you can see in there is the image. You don't have this. I'm looking at a plan here, but you don't have the plan in front of you. It doesn't step down enough for me, so I think it actually needs to be looked at in some way just to make that gateway feature more prominent. That was the idea about getting up to 4-story. There's something I think that doesn't quite work in that, but we could look at it. But happy to relay back your views certainly on that. I don't think a half-story would work here, unfortunately.
Yeah, because the rooms are not that big, are they? And if you have a half story, it's going to cut them even more, isn't it?
It does. That's the problem. It does become a room in an attic. And
yeah,
whilst these are private, they're not affordable, these ones on the corner. I think the ones next to that might be affordable. And to put a half story in that particular element of it, it reduces the room and the usable room within it. If you imagine you have to put boilers in walls, and then you reduce your cupboard space and things like that as well. That's why we're hoping that you could support that 4-story element there. The other thing I should mention as well is, and I mentioned it the last time I spoke to you, was that the units we have now are all National Space Standards compliant, which I think is a really positive step moving forward.
thank you, Stuart. Thank you.
There are some units within our standard house types which aren't National Space Standards, but I'm almost certain that all of these ones are NDSS standard compliant, and I'll check that and I'll be able to confirm that to you once I have to say, we only got these drawings back hot off the press first thing this morning, so I've spent most of this morning looking through these to try and pick up what I can from them. So I can't confirm that yet, but I'm almost 95% sure they're all National Space Standard compliant.
Thank you very much. Councillor Burns, then Councillor Mason.
I was going to, well, Joe probably may go first. A few things. I'm not overly happy about the 4 stories based on, I was involved in the outline permission for this site, 5-6 years ago, whenever it was. Yeah. Also on possibly the highest point of the land as well still. And I understand what you're saying about the cross sections, but that's another matter. If you do have to go to 4 stories, I would consider, things like, and I know this is building side of things, is things like lifts and things like that, because 4 stories is high for somebody to, if they're flats.
Yes.
That's something. Couple of very quick things. I don't need an answer now, but consider.
Sure.
You mentioned about the rear parking aspect of these things. Is obviously the police side of things will come in with design standards.
Yes.
To make sure that obviously we try to match what they want. Often they're I'm not necessarily talking about yourselves, but often they do tend to come in a little bit late, and then by that time all the designs have already been done. So I'd get in early there.
Yeah.
A couple of ancillary things before I'm sure Joe will get onto the other side. The leisure fields, the football fields to the east, where are we standing with those?
The football pitches form part of the infrastructure application, John. So that is under review just now. And I know Penny's been dealing with that. I'm not actually dealing with that application myself, although I do oversee it. But my colleague Dan White has been dealing with that one. There's been an awful lot of discussions about that one, and it's subject to review just now. But the pitches will come forward in the infrastructure application, and they'll be delivered before certainly phase 2 units are completed. So the idea is to get them delivered once phase 1 is finished, but certainly before phase 2 is completed, so that they can be used at quite an early stage in the overall development.
Yeah, what we don't want obviously is all the infrastructure coming last.
No,
you know,
no, that's right.
And finally, I've been talking on and off, not so much recently, with Stagecoach about the bus services.
Yeah.
Have you personally been involved with them at all?
We are in discussion with them just now. My technical director had a meeting some weeks ago, and that's being taken forward just now. So it kind of dovetails with what's going on in the infrastructure application, because Penny and Highways have got some views about how the roads should be aligned within that application. So we have opened up discussions with them, and once I get a chance to sit down with my technical director, which hopefully will be this week, we can review them in line with Penny's comments and Highways comments, and then open up discussions again with Simon Bartlett at Suffolk County Council.
Yeah.
And then we can have a look at planning out bus routes through the site and how that's going to best serve the new residents and existing residents.
Yeah, what we don't want particularly, and I'll put this in this open forum, we don't want Suffolk County Council dictating what bus services we have. Yeah. That's why I contacted Stagecoach, or actually they contacted me first of all. But it's very informal, and that's why I at that time they didn't even know about your development.
All right.
nor the other one, nor Great Willsey as well. So I haven't spoken to them for a few weeks, but I know they were talking about maybe changes to the S106 or something.
Right. Okay. I think it's important to hear local views, and particularly your own views, because you know the residents are the people that are going to be using them, so they should have a say in what exactly is going to happen.
Yeah.
So I've made a note of that, and I think.
Yeah. Sorry, the only thing, Stu, there was no discussion about views or anything. It was just purely making sure that people were talking to one another.
Yeah.
And also, COVID came along, of course, which screwed up all their passenger number statistics.
Absolutely.
You know, and it wasn't just about your site; it was about the whole of Haverhill.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point to make, because there's the Red Road development as well. You know, the buses are serving a great number of new houses, so it's got to be right. There's one chance really to get it right, and without having to review it all at a future date. So,
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you again for meeting us earlier today for the members' briefing, Elaine and myself. It was really informative, a lot to take in.
Yes.
Certainly residents will welcome the move away of the four-storey Corby and Peel buildings from the southern part, close to Anston Road. There's some infrastructure concerns that whilst those buildings had parking, that there was a strong likelihood that people would use Ansuckling as parking as a quicker way of getting out of the estate, and certainly moving the buildings further north certainly, in my opinion, decreases the likelihood of residents choosing to park along Ansuckling Road. I've got two follow-up questions, if you don't mind. On it possibly falls within the infrastructure application, so I do apologise. Two things. One thing, the allotments.
Yeah.
When people access the allotments, there's no parking from the estate side, so parking will be along Ansuckling Road in order to access those. Now, the original infrastructure documents suggested there was going to be hedges to mask the allotments, which sound very nice. Do you know if there's any scope for having a kind of lay-by so that any cars that visit the allotments aren't necessarily just parked on the curb, that they can be set off from the main road? And the second thing is cars parking in the rear car parks. Are there going to be any electrical points that would facilitate future charging possibilities? So have the infrastructure put in or the ability at a later time to have electrical installation points, you know, car charging, do you know if that's part of the infrastructure policy? Because I think as a design, it's very interesting, but we need to make sure that we have that capacity to support residents who are moving.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. That's really helpful points as well. So thank you. First of all, turning to the allotments, the Highways Department have asked that parking is specifically provided within that allotment area for people using the allotments. So that should negate the need for anyone to park along Anne Suckling Way. I think there's provision for, I may be wrong here, but I think it's at least 9 parking spaces there. And also that includes a disabled parking space, which they've asked for, and for cars to be able to turn within that parking area. So that will be located in the extreme southeast corner. So there will be dedicated parking for people visiting the allotments, and Highways have pretty much insisted on that anyway. And that area, I mean, it's an important part of the site as well, next to Anne Suckling Road. So we'd want to create, as part of the infrastructure application, some green landscaping aside Anne Suckling Road, and then you'd have a fence behind that. And it might be a chain link fence, but with landscaping to the front of that to soften it up through time. But that's still subject of discussions just now. So we haven't formalised what the treatment will be there. And in terms of electric vehicle charging points, as this is a reserve matters application, it's not something that's dealt with at the reserve matters. It's something that should have been dealt with at the outline stage. But that being said, I explained to members of the Town Council previously that we are putting in electric vehicle charging points, and we are doing that as part of 2A, and we will do that as part of 2B as well. So all the garages will certainly have EV charging points, and usually we put them in now to detached houses as well. The only areas where there may be a problem is where you have some frontage parking. So you wouldn't want to have cables going across a footway, so it becomes a bit more difficult. And in terms of adoption by the County Council, they don't want to see charging points within an area that they're adopting. So we will be putting EV charging points in, but it might not be for every single house.
Thank you.
That's a real shame, really, because you know, I think Councillor Mason was saying that it's the infrastructure, really. You know, you don't have to put the actual charges in for, you know, the flats and obviously people that have to park their car across the road, but it's the infrastructure, the wiring. That's what I mean, underneath the ground.
Yeah,
that's the thing that we'd be looking for, really, because then they can. It's up to them, obviously, to pay out to have a charger put in. But it's just the infrastructure, really, but because we don't want people going around digging roads up.
Yeah. Well,
we don't. You know, we want people, especially when it comes to the flats, we want people to charge their cars and then sort of go. You know, we don't want people sort of having wires from plugs from their house leading all down just to charge their cars. So there's a lot of reasons why we just want that infrastructure, really.
Yeah, I totally appreciate where you're coming from. We have managed to do it elsewhere. It was quite tricky because the parking courts in our developments aren't all assigned to a particular person or a management company. They are divided up, so each person owns the space where their car is parked. In the instances where it's a communal parking area, then we should be able to put the infrastructure in. And then if someone wants to connect to it at a future date, then the cabling is all in there. The conduits are underneath the ground anyway. So whilst they might not have charging points, the potential for someone to connect at a future date should be guaranteed. So it's certainly something I'll take back and see what we can do. If we can put it in now, then we will try and put that in there. So watch this space.
Right, yeah, thank you very much for that, Stuart. Thank you. But I think personally, is what you're going to do in the houses. I think it's going to be a selling point personally when you're selling houses, because especially as the years are going on, you know, like next year, 2021, there's going to be loads of electric cars coming out, loads of them. So
Yeah.
it'll be a good selling point.
Yeah.
Colin?
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to extend our use of Stuart's time too long.
That's okay. Don't worry about that.
I just wanted to just clarify. You made a comment about highways and having charging points on adoptable land. Could you just explain that a bit more fully? Is that Suffolk County Highway saying that they won't adopt land that has charging points on it?
They won't let us put charging points on it. So there would be a maintenance issue. So if the actual structure which is used for recharging cars is within their land, then they would be responsible for maintaining that. So that's why they're hesitant about taking on or adopting these areas where the charging points are. So we try and get it all to be within private curtilage or communal private parking courts rather than within the adopted land.
And did they say that was policy?
It was on a different site, not even in West Suffolk, where we were going to put a communal charging point in a couple of locations, but they said they wouldn't adopt them. I don't know if it's written down in policy anywhere. Their policies certainly encourage the use of electric vehicle charging points. It's in the parking guidance, but I think they wanted to offload that into private or areas which are governed by a management company rather than their own areas.
I can well believe it. Chair, I wonder whether we ought to take that up with our county councillors, because that's completely swimming against the tide. That's the last thing the highway's telling people.
Yeah. We did want to put them in near the visitor parking places, so it wasn't just for residents in the scheme. Our proposal, it was a scheme in Hadley actually, as it happens, and we had two spaces which could be for visitors or residents, whoever got there and when they needed to charge the car up, but they wouldn't let us do that. So, you know, if you can exert any influence, I think it's certainly worth your while picking up on that point with your county councillors.
That goes against the climate emergency. You know, it's just absolutely outrageous. You know, unbelievable. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, that's got major implications for existing old council estates, i.e. Chalkston, Clements, Parkway, etc. I mean, how are those poor people going to access power to charge cars in the future? It really, really is something that we need to get sorted out. It's strange.
Well, they seem to manage it in city centres, don't they, in town centres. So if you went into London, for example, where it's been encouraged for quite a number of years now, there are communal charging points. So there must be a way around it, but Suffolk certainly resisted it then. They may have a change of heart. I know that West Suffolk has declared a climate emergency. So with that in mind, I think now is probably the right time to exert some pressure on county councillors, and maybe they'll have a change of heart.
Thank you, Stuart. Right. Is that it? Yeah? Stuart? Yeah? Thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And thanks again for letting me speak to you. When the application is submitted, we'll certainly come back and speak to you again once you've had a chance to look at the full pack that's submitted and then raise any further questions at another MS Teams meeting.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you. It's really
You're very welcome.
Really
Have a
good.
nice Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, item 7 now, to consider planning applications to West Suffolk Council. Item list B, which is DC 20, which is item number 1, which is DC 2021 HH 14 Tiberius Close. Single-storey side extension following demolition of existing conservatory and single-storey rear extension. Is there any comments on that at all? No? Can I propose then that as neutral, I suppose, on this one? Can I have a proposer? Councillor Davison, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Brown. All those in favour of neutral, please show. Okay, thank you very much for that. Item 2, which is DC 2003 FUL 2 Pipperell Way. A, 5 general industrial units following demolition of existing offices and structures. And B, improvements to existing vehicular access. Fire officer, oh, sorry, that's my notes. Okay, Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I've looked at the plans. I totally welcome what's planned there. That factory's, sat empty for a long time. It's a huge employment opportunity there. 5 units going in. It's just the sort of thing that we want. There's a shortage of those type of units. They're great for smaller business to start up in. I noticed that there were some concerns around parking, but when that factory was in full swing, a couple of decades ago, there was a lot of people work there. Other than normal sort of issues, it was nothing untoward. It's out of the way. I totally welcome. I think, to be fair, I hope we can support it.
Yeah, there's the fire officer wants to know with the new gates, how is the fire department going to access to get in? But I thought they had sort of cutters on them, on their vehicles, but I may be wrong. And also 6 to 10 Pipperell Way, that's the business, is objecting on lorries parking in Pipperell Way as well. And also there's 11 on-site parking spaces, as in the transport plan on page 4. Councillor Burns?
Yeah, sorry, I was going to support what Tony said. This was owned by my business partner's father at one point, Marchant. And I used to go down there regularly. There was never a problem with lorries on the road. Remembering, when they were full whack, when they were manufacturing things on site until they moved, until the Chinese bought the site. There was never a problem there. The problem we have is certain car dealerships and everything else on the other side of the road constantly parking vehicles on the road. I report them to the police many times because quite a few of them don't have legal right to be there. But no, I mean, there's extra car parking going in. There's nice little units. The site has been used up to relatively recently. It was bought by a company based out of Reading from the Chinese. But even then, as Marchant couldn't do, they couldn't make it justified in the large size it is. So unfortunately, there was a few jobs lost there. But now, let's get some more small type businesses back, is my view. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Councillor Burns. Councillor Sitchcombe? No? Sorry, I thought you wouldn't speak. Okay, can I have a proposer then on this? Councillor Brown, can I have a second, please?
Yeah, I propose that we support this, not neutral. We actually support this.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Councillor Davison, do you second supporting on this? Yeah, okay. All those in favour of supporting this, please show. Okay. Okay, overwhelming. Thank you for that. Item number 3, which is DC 2074 HH. I haven't put, sorry, Vicky, can you read out what that is? Because I haven't put it on my notes. I've missed that one out. I've just got 27. I don't know what that means. You read what it is?
DC 22074, 6 Hitton Close, conversion of garage to living space with new window to front elevation and blocking up of existing garage door.
Thank you for that. Councillor Burns?
This is opposite me. this may set a precedent. This site was only built about 12 years ago, just at the start of the last recession we had. And a lot of the buildings went to housing association where they were trying to sell them. I'd be very concerned in the long term. They're quite big garages, actually, that we start converting loads of garages, because parking over there can get quite bad, because although people do have parking spaces as well for the flats, it is shared spaces over there. So there's a lot of vehicles on the road when everyone's home at night. So, but I don't particularly have a problem with this one, because they're not putting any extra bedrooms in or anything like that. It's just purely to enlarge the ground floor space for the building, because the buildings themselves were not overly big at the time. I remember them going up and being involved with the planning at the time, even though I wasn't a councillor. So just be wary of that for future.
Yeah, obviously we always do, really, because that's one thing about this planning committee. We are pretty hot when it comes to parking. And this one, obviously, there's no extra bedrooms. We've just got to take this planning application as it is, really. Anyone else want to talk on this? No? So I presume it's a neutral again? Yeah. Can I have a proposal for the neutral, please, for this one? Councillor Liz Smith. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Bruce Davison. All those in favour, please show. Yep, overwhelming. Thank you. And number 4, which is DC 202106 HH, 12 Crispin Close, first floor side extension with roof light. Any comments on this? Councillor Davison?
I suggest that we go neutral on this. Although they're putting an extra bedroom, it's not actually an extra bedroom. It's still going to be a 3-bedroom house, so it's not going to affect parking. So neutral on this one.
Thank you for that. Can I have a second? Oh, is that a proposal? Yeah. Yeah, right. Can I have a seconder for that then? Councillor Brown? I saw first. Okay, all those in favour, please show. Thank you. Neutral for that one. Right, item number 5, which is DC 202113 HH, 5 Couples Road, single story front and rear extension. Any comments on that? Can I propose that it's a neutral? Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Brown, second.
Who proposed that, sorry?
Me.
Okay, seconder.
It's Councillor Brown.
Tony Brown, thank you.
All those in favour, please show. Yeah, thank you. Item 6, which is DC 2073 FUL, Maple Park, Falconer Road, siting of 20 storage containers for storage and distribution, Class E. Any comments on this one? Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I personally myself support this. I know where that area is. It's in front of where Aerocycles is. It's just a little bit of dead ground there. Containers seem to be quite popular, with small businesses and homeowners to put stuff in. I think it's a great use of a bit of wasteland, providing a nice little service and secure, storage.
Yeah, you're quite right, because the other storage that they've got is completely full.
Yeah.
They want some more.
Yeah.
Councillor Burns?
Yeah, same thing. This is actually opposite my business partner's place. The other ones, are full. The place is locked up at night, as Aerocycles and all the other businesses are up there. I don't know why they're so popular, those sort of things, but obviously they are. Maybe something we should get into that business as well if they are that popular. But yes, I'm not in committee, but I would agree it's a good one.
Okay. Councillor Davison?
Yeah, I propose we go neutral on this one.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Dave Smith? All those in favour, please show. Yeah, overwhelming. Thank you. Item 7, which is DC 20-2132 TPO, land adjacent to 14 Cannon Close. This is a tree, TPO 285 tree preservation order. These are, I think, to remove 2 ACER T1, T2 on plan within A1 and order. 1 Walnut T3 on plan with A1 on order. T1, T2, T3 to be felled. Tree surgeon reported that the trees are taking moisture out of the foundations and causing subsidence, and that's on page 4, 4th paragraph of the tree surgeon's report. Right, any other comments on what I've just said? No? So we're neutral on this one then? Yeah, can I have a proposer? Councillor Liz Smith? Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Dave Smith? All those in favour, please show. Yep, overwhelming. Thank you very much. Right, that's back to the agenda. Matters to report. Any matters to report? Councillor Liz Smith?
Dave and I have received a letter, email rather, not letter, from one of the parish councillors in Helian's Bumpstead about the West Suffolk local plan, which I believe we've already commented on, haven't we? And they just want to know what our views are. And I think they wrote to Dave and myself because we're the Haverhill Town Council South Ward councillors. But I don't know if anyone else wants to see the email and put any comments, or if I just respond to what our comments were that we've already expressed. Any thoughts on that, anyone?
Well, is that the one that we responded to?
Sorry?
I think Colin responded to, was that Councillor, I can't remember her name. From a lady?
No,
lady, yeah.
No, you're talking about from Sturma, weren't you?
Oh no, this is from Helian's Bumpstead. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Council. And it's about the bit of land on this that's going to be south of Haverhill. You know, the proposed, yeah. The part
proposed 5,000. Proposed 5,000 houses, isn't it?
I'm not sure if
I think Colin. Yeah, we spoke about that, didn't we? In full council, I think it was, or was last planning committee?
It was quite a lot of discussion. Councillor Roach kindly had Marie Smith come along, and that was the main focus. But we'd already responded to that in the original call for sites. So that's
we could just share that response with them, I presume, then in that case, or
if Vicky can dig it back out again.
Okay.
Yeah, if you could. The one that we sent Diana Garrett, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you could do that, that would be great, and then I can perhaps respond to them directly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Burns.
Yeah. I was going to say there, Liz, was obviously they should be making their own mind up what their views are as well.
Yeah. I think they just wanted a bit of our input on it. Yeah, they did say that.
That's fine. Yeah, but they've only got till 6 o'clock tomorrow night.
I think they've got an extension. They've managed to get an extension for some reason. That's what they said in the email anyway.
Okay. Well, everyone else has been told 6 o'clock tomorrow night. So.
Oh, okay. They've been told the 25th of January. So I don't know.
Really? Well, none of us have been told that.
No.
Okay.
Perhaps I'll forward you all the email and see if any of you got any comments on that.
Yeah. I've still got to do my bit, but I've got the paperwork here that put in their system. Nothing from me, Pat. You'll be surprised.
Oh, right. Thanks.
Sorry, I can't think of anything. It's been a long day.
Yes. Right. Thank you very much, everyone. And the next meeting is on the 7th of January. Councillor Davison?
7th of January is a Thursday. I think you should find that it's the 11th of January.
Oh, right. Right. The 11th, right.
Or the 4th.
I've got that in my diary.
11th or the 4th?
Or the 12th?
Well, on the dates that were
Vicky, you've gotta
previously
help us out.
supplied.
You've got to help us out here.
Let me
On the
check.
dates that were previously supplied, it says the 11th of
It's the
January.
11th of January is the date.
The 11th of January.
Yeah, I put all the dates in my diary.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone. And I'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a much, much better New Year. I'm going to be one of the first to have these injections on here in front of you. So the sooner we all get these injections, the better, really. And we can start getting back to some sort of normality.
Are you live streaming it, Chair?
Anyway, thank you very much, everyone. I do hope you all have a lovely Christmas and what has been recorded, I should say. Everyone out there, a happy Christmas and much, much better New Year and a healthy New Year to you all.
Yeah, thanks, Pat.
Very much.
I hope
Thank you.
there's the one that's carrying out the injection then, Pat.
Yeah, I've got a fear of injections, believe it or not.
Oh dear.
But I have to have them every year as well.
Yeah.
Other things